In this video, I'm going to go over 20 essential shortcuts you should know inside After Effects. Let's dive in. So I'm inside After Effects, and I just want to point out that I'll be displaying my keystrokes in the bottom right hand corner. You can follow along down there if you want to see my keystrokes. I also want to point out I'm using the default After Effects keyboard shortcut settings, but you are more than welcome to follow along, see the shortcuts you want to use, and then create custom keyboard shortcuts by going up to Edit Keyboard Shortcuts. All right, so the first shortcut I'm going to show you is to create a new composition. So that's simply Command N, and that will bring up the new composition window. So I'm going to quickly fill this information in and then click OK. So inside my After Effects project, I have some photos. I'm going to click and drag my first one to my new composition. One cool shortcut that you can use, especially if you work with templates inside After Effects, is to quickly replace media inside your composition panel. So for example, I have this other photo. What if I wanted to replace the photo in my composition or in my timeline with this other photo? To do that, just hold down Option and click and drag from the project panel to the layer inside your timeline panel. You'll notice that that layer is updated to the new photo. This also works really well with logos. So for example, if I have my black logo here in my timeline and I wanted to replace it with my white version, I can click on the white version, click and hold down Option and drag to the timeline panel, and you'll notice that logo will update. So another common thing you might want to do in After Effects is split apart layers. If you want to split a layer in half, the keyboard shortcut to do that is Command-Shift-D. So you can see I just split this photo in half and I can use half of it. This is very helpful if this is a video clip. Now a few other layer controls and shortcuts that you can use, say if you wanted to trim your layer, you can hold down Option Begin Bracket or Option End Bracket to trim your layers. This will essentially just trim the beginning and end of your layers. Now say if you have this and you want to move it to the beginning of your composition or the end of your composition, you can use the keyboard shortcut Function, Option Left or Right arrow, and this will snap that layer to the beginning or the end of your composition. Now another helpful keyboard shortcut when it comes to layers is your I and O shortcuts. When you use I and O, I will go to the beginning of the layer and O will go to the end of the layer. You can also use the keyboard shortcuts B and N to trim your workspace inside your timeline window. So you can see B sets the beginning, N sets the end, and you can trim your workspace to fit the length of your layer. Now I'm going to get rid of that photo for now, and let's go over some shape settings and shape shortcuts. When you click and draw out a shape, for example, a circle, if you want it to be a perfect circle, you can hold down Shift and this will proportionally expand the new shape. Now you have some options, say if you didn't want to include fill or if you wanted to change the fill and stroke options. To change that, you can easily hold down Option and click to cycle through the different fill and stroke options at the very top of the screen. Now, a common issue that happens with shape layers is you'll notice that the anchor point gets offset. It's not in the center. And you can easily fix this by clicking on the Pan from Behind tool. If you hold down Command while double clicking on the tool, this will re-center the anchor point to the center of your layer. You also have the option to change this in your preferences. So if you go up to After Effects Preferences General, you'll notice an option where you can check Center Anchor Point in the new shape layers. Now this also works for text. By default, text anchor points are set to the bottom center. You can always recenter it. And another cool thing when it comes to anchor points, if you wanted to have your anchor point go to a corner of a text layer or a different layer, you can hold down Command while moving the anchor point and this will snap it to the edges or the corners of the text layer. Now when it comes to working with layers inside After Effects, there's a few handy keyboard shortcuts to keep in mind if you want to bring up the different properties. You can click U to bring up all the properties inside a layer. This will also bring up any keyframe properties as well. And just to go over it very quickly, some helpful shortcuts when it comes to bringing up layer properties is S is for scale, T is for opacity, R is for rotation, P is for position, A is for anchor point, R is for rotation. I think I'm not sure if I missed any, but if I did, they'll be right here. Another helpful shortcut when it comes to properties is say if you want to bring up more than one property at a time, you can hold down Shift while clicking S, R, T, or the different properties to bring up more than one at a time. Now to create keyframes inside After Effects, the default shortcuts for this is Shift, Option, and then the letter for that shortcut. So for example, for scale, it's Shift, Option, S to create a new keyframe. You can change this to be a little shorter if you want like Option S, or, you can experiment with what works best for you. Now you'll notice when you edit properties, you can change the speed in which you edit the actual value of a property. So for example, if you hold down Command and scroll left or right to change the value of a property, you'll notice that it changes slow. Where in contrast, if you wanted to really increase a property by a high value, you can hold down Shift and this will cycle through the values a lot in larger increments. Another helpful tip is to use Shift plus Command right or left arrow to go forward or back 10 frames in your timeline. So this is very helpful if you want to go forward in your timeline to add another keyframe. Now, another common thing that you'll do with keyframes is add Easy Ease. You can right click on a keyframe and then go to Keyframe Assistant, Easy Ease, but there are keyboard shortcuts for these. So for Easy Ease, it's F9. For Ease In, it's Shift F9, and then for Ease Out, it's Shift Command F9. Another thing that you can do on your timeline is, say if you move your playhead, you can hold down Shift, and this will snap the playhead to the nearby keyframe. Now say if you create keyframes, as we did to the shape layer, and you want to expand the animation a little bit. For example, maybe you want it 4 seconds long. You can go out to 4 seconds. If you want to expand the animation, you can marquee select all your keyframes, hold down Option and click and drag the last keyframe to the 4-second mark while holding down Shift, and you'll notice that the keyframes will expand proportionally. So one other thing you can do with keyframes that's a new feature inside After Effects is use label colors. For example, I can select my beginning keyframes for the animation in and assign it a label color such as purple. And you'll notice if we click on one keyframe and we right click on it, you can select the keyframes by layer color. So for example, I can select all the purple keyframes, in this example my in keyframes or the animation in keyframes, and move just those keyframes. I can do the same with the end. I can assign the end keyframes maybe the color green, and then select those keyframes and move all my out animation keyframes at the same time. Now a few other layer shortcuts to keep in mind is that Command Y creates a new solid, and also Option Command Y creates new adjustment layers. So that might be handy if you use solids and adjustment layers a lot in After Effects. Now when it comes to adding effects to layers, I do recommend Video Copilot's Effects Console. This is a very easy to use plugin that you can use to automatically assign effects to layers. So by using the keyboard shortcut in my example, I believe it's Control Space, I can easily bring up Effects Console and type in different effects to add to my layer inside After Effects. Now for example here, say if I click on a layer and bring up Effects Console, there's the gear icon, and when I click on that, you can see that you can assign different effects, different numbers, and this is a very easy and fast way to effectively add effects to your layers inside After Effects. If you do want to learn how Effects Console works, I did make a dedicated video going over that. I will link that video right up there if you do want to check that out. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.